Our children already face an online world where they are potentially under constant surveillance, and this might be happening in their physical lives as well. Hi, I'm Brett, a parent and teacher of preteens. In this growing age of uncertainty and complexity, parents are using tech and finding new ways to keep their children safe. But is that what's really going on? In this video, I'm going to explain why I think we might be unintentionally keeping our children under constant surveillance, what problems this might be causing, and what we can possibly do about it. There is a constant flow of new technologies being advertised to us, convincing us that we need to use them in order to ensure the safety of our children. These can come in the form of physical products or programs and apps that let us know exactly what our children are doing on their phones and the internet. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about internet filters. I think everyone would agree that they certainly have a place. What I am talking about are the apps that tell you what they're doing, at what time, and where they're doing it. It might be all well and good to monitor or block social media apps for your teenager, but what about the apps that track their location? If I remember back to when I was a preteen, the absolute joy in being able to ride my bike into town, which took anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, meeting other friends and then exploring our surroundings for the day, with the only expectation that I was home before dark, made me feel so grown up and trusted. I learned how to think before taking risks or following the lead of a friend who liked to push the boundaries. I can't imagine knowing that my parents had the ability to know where I was at any moment on these adventures. This might have taken the thrill out of it, and I probably would have just stayed at home. And do kids really need a phone to walk, ride, or take the bus to school? This seems to be the number one reason I get from parents when they seek my advice at school. I find this interesting, especially when I follow up by asking them how this was dealt with when they were the same age. What a travesty it seems that some kids are encouraged to message or ring their parents upon departing school, while en route, and when arriving home, when the majority of them travel less than a kilometre or two. Aside from phones, I've been told about children who have Apple AirTags put in their backpacks and even their shoes. I'm sure the parents have reasons for thinking this is a good idea, but it just doesn't feel right to me. I've also had a previous student tell me how their mum wouldn't be able to pick them up from school, so the adult sister had to come and collect them. I asked the student why they didn't just walk home by themselves. Their response was interesting. "Mum doesn't like me doing that. It makes her feel uncomfortable." This gave me some cause for concern, especially when the student is 10 years old and their house is attached to the boundary of the school. Schools themselves aren't excluded from this issue either. I feel that posting constant pictures and updates throughout the day and week for parents to see at home might be encouraging the surveillance and the desire for some parents to want to know what their child is doing at all times. So, what problems might this be causing for our children? The biggest issue I see is around trust. And it's not that parents don't trust their kids. It's that kids don't feel trusted by the actions that are being taken to monitor them, under the premise of keeping them safe. It could be argued that the way for kids to feel safe is to be trusted to make decisions, make errors, and then learn from them. Wouldn't we rather them learn this as 10 to 15-year-olds, rather than start to learn about risk when they're almost adults, with all the extra challenges that come with that? I'm thinking about cars, alcohol, drugs, and serious relationships. It's interesting to me that we seem to be adding extra levels of safety and monitoring at the exact time that children want to start exploring their independence, and we as parents should be starting to give them more personal freedom, not take it away. And because of this lack of trust that children might be feeling, mixed with the anxieties that parents are having, this might be a reason for some of the issues that I hear adults, and especially business owners, complain about young people. I've been told over and over that young people are unwilling to take appropriate risks, their resilience is low, the ability to solve problems by themselves is almost non-existent, and they appear to always wait for approval or someone to guide them before taking actions. Now, I know that the students I've taught don't want to be like this, so we need to make sure that we're giving them the opportunities to show their worth. Now, this all sounds grim, but we can definitely do something to turn this around, and I think almost immediately. We have to start trusting our kids more. This goes for both parents, teachers, and general society. Starting small with simple things like walking to the shops or school unattended and without a phone, we'll start the process, and from there we can continue to give them more freedom as they prove themselves. Organisations like letgrow.org have numerous ideas and explanations for how you can manage this process at home. Parents and adults need to acknowledge and start managing their own anxieties around child safety. It's important that when making decisions around what our kids are or are not allowed to do, we make sure we ask ourselves, is my reaction to the request or opportunity being presented causing me to react in a certain way due to my own worries and concern? Or could my child actually do the thing with a bit of encouragement and guidance? Our kids are often so much more capable than we give them credit for. Remember, at the last two Olympic Games, there have been 13 and 14-year-olds not only competing, but winning medals. Think about all the things they would need to navigate to get to this level of competition. It seems like a massive disparity that a 14-year-old could travel across the world, focus on being an elite sports person, deal with the media, while at the same time still being an awkward teen trying to figure it all out. When on the other hand, there are families that are apprehensive to let their own 14-year-old walk to the shops to meet their friends for a few hours, in the community that they spent their entire lives. We can also take actions to improve our own mindsets. I urge you to think back to when you were the same age, and remember what you wished for and could do or maybe actually did. Talk to other parents about this and put plans in place to let your kids have more freedom together. We can also read and become more informed. Books like The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt can help to reframe your thinking. And technology. Whether you give your child a phone or not, that's really only a decision for you and your family. But I implore you to think about how important the requirements for you to have tracking apps on these phones are, and make sure that they don't always have the phone when they go out and explore the world. Some common problems that come up in our community around the need for kids to have phones include concerns that with no landlines anymore, how can my child contact me when they do get home by themselves? Or I need to have a monitoring app so that I can block social media and monitor their internet usage. Both legitimate concerns. Now, there are options here. First, if you genuinely want them to have a smartphone, then it could be argued that if you're willing for them to have one, then aren't you also agreeing that they are trustworthy enough to manage it themselves without parental controls? If this doesn't resonate with you, then it might actually be the case that you're struggling with the pressure that your child and society seem to be putting on you to give a child a smartphone before you really want them to have one. This is a tricky and real situation we're all dealing with. But if you want your child to have access to a phone so that they can contact you via voice or text, or even better, to leave one of these at home for them to use to let you know when they get home, then there is a growing list of dumb phones being manufactured for just this purpose. So, as I finish up, I want to leave you with some key things to think about as you navigate the challenge of helping our kids grow and thrive. How are you helping your child to become more independent? What opportunities does your child have to prove that they are trustworthy? Are you letting your child fail and then pick themselves up and learn from their experiences? Do you need to know what your children are doing at all times? We need to constantly be thinking about these things so as to not unknowingly take away our kids' autonomy and work towards trusting our children, not surveilling them. Our kids are smart, interesting and savvy, so let's give them more opportunity to show their gifts and skills. And of course, don't do this alone. Work with your friends and your communities to help our kids become awesome human beings. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, then you might like this other one I made about some issues that might be happening with school communication apps.